Hey, Chris.
Hey, Rod.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
What happens if you're a child and you have to go through a loss, like a grandparent or a parent or a sibling? How do you deal with that? And how do you support a child going through grief?
Right. That's a good question, especially when they probably don't have the vocabulary to express how they're feeling.
Right.
So I have no idea, but lucky enough, we're going to find out tonight.
Hey, this is Rod.
And this is Chris.
We are Unqualified
And Unsupervised.
the show where two guys try to figure out life after loss with no experts, no scripts, just experience.
We're going to have the unfiltered conversations about hard topics that no one wants to talk about, but everyone should. Coming from a couple of guys who were forced to join a club we didn't want to join. Rod, how you doing this week?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm going to guess you had an interesting week. Because you always freaking have an interesting week.
There's always something that happens.
Oh,
it always
my God.
happens.
You are what we would have called in the fire service as a shit magnet. The guy who always draws the dumbass, crazy, weird ass, interesting, fun calls. That happens to you every week.
Well, a couple little different things. I did work with a service this week, and I noticed I don't know how old the young man was, maybe like 9 or 10. And he was just dressed impeccably, bow tie, jacket, and everything. And I went over there and I said something to them. I said, my son's invited me to a wedding in Washington, D.C., and I think this is how I'm supposed to look. And so it started this whole conversation about this young man. She goes, oh, yeah, my son's into fashion and da-da-da-da-da. And these boys were impeccably dressed. They did do, they were very good for Grandma's funeral.
Yeah, you don't usually see young kids impeccably dressed.
No.
Even when parents are like impeccably dressed and always dress them impeccably, that lasts what, 5, maybe 10 minutes?
These boys had
they get
jackets, ties, shoes. They were rocking it.
They didn't have their shirt tail untucked.
No t-shirts.
Wow.
No, none of that. So
Good
anyway,
for them.
that was neat. Also, while I was working the visitor's book, a former classmate of mine showed up.
Oh,
So I had serendipity.
fun.
Got to talk to them. So what happened in your week?
My week was not that interesting for once. I didn't have a
Okay.
lot going on, just basically working, but I've also hit the point where I'm doing long workouts.
Right.
So, 2-hour runs, 3.5-hour bike rides, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So getting ready.
So are you recovered from your last? Because you just were in an event here about a week or so ago.
Yeah, it would have been 2 Saturdays ago.
Right.
Yeah, I did a sprint triathlon
Right.
at the Try-by-Night at Wartburg College down in Waverly.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that went well. I PR'd that one for me.
Hey.
I didn't get placed or anything, but
Right.
I beat my previous time by about a minute and a half.
That's important.
Yes, it is.
That's
Well,
motivation.
It means my training's working. And
Exactly.
I'm going in the right direction.
Exactly.
So that felt pretty good.
So now you have another one coming up here soon.
June.
Oh.
Yeah, got a 70.3, which is a half Ironman.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're braver than me.
we'll see. Well, I don't know. I might be dumber and crazier too. I don't know. Maybe a little of both.
I'll be on the sidelines eating ice cream while you go by.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I appreciate the support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So this week we've got an interesting show.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It's something I don't know very much about, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I don't either. I wish I would have about 7 years ago when Janice was sick and passing. I think this would have helped me. But yeah, Kelli Hill will be with us. She is a pediatric therapist. So she helps pediatrics, kids, who are having emotional trauma and grief and loss and that kind of thing.
That'll be good. I can't wait to get into that, and listen to what she has to say, because I think, I think about like Jeff's grandkids. How did we help them through their grief? And I wonder, did we do it adequately enough?
Right.
Was it enough?
Well, and I think about my boys all the time too. They were late teenagers, but they were teenagers, and I don't know if I did all the right things.
Right.
So I guess we'll find out tonight.
Hey, Chris.
Rod, what's going on?
Well, we're back, and I'm really looking forward to this show tonight. Having grandchildren, like Jeff's grandchildren, the loss of the other grandfather, and his children. How did I guide them right? Did we give them the right information about death and grief and everything? So I'm really looking forward to learning. How to do that and to be a better grandparent, better parent. You know,
Exactly.
walking children through, a loss. So.
Right. Excellent. And we have Kelli here tonight. Kelli, hi.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
I'm great.
Awesome. We're excited to have you here.
Absolutely.
And so
Thank you.
Jeff, good God.
Rod.
Jeff is his lost spouse.
We told you it was unscripted and unsupervised.
And we don't know what we're doing. We're still surprised they gave us microphones.
Jeez, I know, right?
Actually, they didn't. We got them ourselves, and we just do it.
We threw a little scotch at it, so we're good to go.
We are good to go. But since Rod is notorious for a 4 or 5 sentence question, tell us a little bit about what you do
and who you are and how you got there.
There you go.
Yes. So I am a clinical child and adolescent psychologist, and I practice in Mason City, but I see children from, all around northern Iowa, some from Des Moines. I came from Des Moines, so some followed me from that. So I do therapy and psychological testing with children and teenagers.
Right. So I take it you're doing this mostly telehealth, Zoom, that kind of thing, or are they actually coming to your office?
It's both. I would say the majority of the ones that came from Des Moines are telehealth.
Okay.
They're older teenagers, and some are young adults now that I've just continued with. And then I do have some, though, that travel.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Once you make that connection with therapy, it can be pretty important. So it just kind of depends on the child and issues they're working with. But
sure. Yeah, I would think, because that was important for me when I was going through therapy, is to be comfortable with my therapist. And once that connection was made, that was it. That was the only person I'm going to talk to. I would imagine children must be even more so like that. I mean, make that connection and they really become attached, or maybe not as much.
It kind of depends on the kid, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some where it's probably more so that there's no way they want to go through all the beginning stages with somebody else. And then some where it's like, well, this is just a different phase of life. Might be a good time, to start with someone new. So it just depends.
Sure. Well, I guess that brings up an interesting point too. As kids grow, if they still need therapy, do they grow out of your service and into somebody else's, expertise or what do you specialty? I guess maybe you'd call it.
Good question. So it kind of depends on what they're seeing me for. So I used originally, like when I first started, I worked at an agency where once they were 18 and graduated high school, they couldn't see us anymore. But fortunately now I get to make my own rules a little bit.
Okay.
So
nice.
so I stay with people as long as they need it and as long as they still feel like they're benefiting from it, So there are certainly some issues that adults might have that I feel like I'm not qualified for, but as long as we're working on similar issues that we've been working on, I'm definitely able to do that. So, and college age is kind of fun too. So I certainly am comfortable working through that and have some graduate students. And I also work with a few adults who have developmental disability. So that's definitely part of my realm too.
So what is your background, Kelli? Did you grow up and as a child and go, hey, this is what I want to do? Or how did you evolve? How did you evolve?
So I'm probably one of those really weird people who I did know it wasn't when I was young I was going to be a zookeeper. I was going to be a hairstylist. I was going to be all kinds of adventures that I was going to do. But no, probably, okay, this is going to sound really nerdy of me, but I'm just going to claim it.
Hey, we're all nerdy in our own way.
Right. I have an older sister who is, she was in college when I was in high school, and she brought home a psychology textbook and I started reading it and I just like, wow, this is fascinating. So I went to a small school that did not have psychology as any option. So it was a brand new idea for me and I just was fascinated. So I did start my freshman year of college as a psychology major. And probably by my second year, knew I wanted to work with children. I took a class in child psychology, and I just knew. I can't
that was
even
a
explain
fit.
it. I was like, this is me.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do. And I'd always felt like, did lots of babysitting and lifeguarding and things like that, and knew that I connected well with kids, and I really enjoyed being around kids. And so to work with them with mental health, it just connected with me. I just felt very drawn to it.
Wow.
I would say initially the psychology part was definitely more of the science part that I was really fascinated by. The brain. I just was thrilled by that. Like, how does the brain work? How does that, how does it react differently for different people? How come some people can go through these things and be totally fine, and some people go through these things and can't be fine? So, yeah, and then it just kind of evolved from that.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, but it's good when you've known from an early age that it's a fit. Yeah.
And not many people, especially anymore, most people don't have that clue, even getting close to the end of college.
See, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. So I keep testing different things, but I want to get back to something that you said, early on about building the rapport with children, and it's about trust. They come to trust you and know that you have their best interest at heart.
Right.
Yeah. That you wouldn't lead them astray, that type of thing. So do you...
and the parents too. I mean, you definitely have to build that trust and rapport with the parents.
Training the parents is training the parents is so... It's like, like the dog whisperer. They're not training the dog, they're training the owner. And that's I think that's with parents too. I think you got to train the parents.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm gonna leap right in. Okay, one of my seven. Okay. You said you lifeguarded.
Yeah. Here we go.
No, I lifeguard.
Rod's a lifeguard too.
No, and
yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm in the zero depth area of the pool because I'm part of the rotation, and because you're lifeguarding, but you're not interacting with people, but you sit there and you listen.
Yes.
I am always not surprised anymore about the things I hear parents say to their children. It's and grandparents, and sometimes you see it generationally. Some like, don't do this, do this, do this. I told you this, not to this. It's like, well, no wonder the kid is like a messed up, because they're getting all these mixed messages. But
and then they hear things like, "Well, I've already told you this 100 times. How dumb are you?" And
right. I the dysfunction that I hear at the pool is just like, okay. And I want to step in. Sometimes I do. I do want to step in, but I can't. But I don't know how you untangle that. But you get the end result of that. When the child comes to you. But my other question really is, how much grief counseling do you do with children? I mean,
I would say a lot, actually. And it's, it just varies because there's, of course, all kinds of reasons for grief, right? So definitely the death of a parent or another relative. I would say for kids, it's their, a lot of times it's their first death experience. And so that's, it can be challenging just to help them understand the whole idea of it. And sometimes that's a pet. Sometimes that's a grandparent. Certainly, though, it can be a sibling or a parent.
Well, I was going to add, I'll jump in. Okay. because you're talking varying degrees of like when Jeff died, he had Skylar was the youngest and she was like 4 or 5. And she kind of understood the concept of it, but they had lost a grandparent earlier that year. So Jeff was not their first experience. And it makes me wonder, it's one thing to lose a grandparent. It's another thing to lose a parent. It's another thing to lose a sibling. And it's a different thing to lose a pet.
Definitely.
So are there varying degrees of like what children, you know what I mean? Like they can,
or is death to kids? Regardless of who it is.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So death is varying degrees for adults, but for kids, and certainly as they grow older and understand the process more, like, oh, mom's really not coming back.
Right.
Then it can be more complicated grief. But the initial death experience it's death. That's what they know. So I would not say necessarily for children there's an easier one, it's
right,
hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Pet turtle is just as bad as dad.
Right. Yeah.
Because death is that. Well, even as an adult, Jeff's been gone over 3 years. Even though I was right there when it happened, when he passed, I still at times like that didn't happen. I still can't believe that happened. So do children go through that as well?
They do. I mean, the stages of death that people talk about. I mean, that's yes, definitely stages that kids go through too. Now, of course, it depends on their developmental level, right? Like how much they understand about it, but certainly. And I mean, younger kids don't understand, and I'm talking about like 0 to 4-ish. They don't really even understand that uh, death is permanent. They feel like it could be reversible. So then they are like, well, when's mom coming home? When's this going to happen? So, but then as they get older, yeah, they start understanding more. But and so then they might go even through some stages again, because now they're understanding it on a more in-depth level. They might go through anger all over again because they didn't understand it at that, I didn't understand that mom wasn't coming back, so now they're angry and grieving in a very different way.
But as you say this, working in a funeral home, I had to learn pretty early on what to say and what not to say. And this might be a good time to bring that up. It's like, what are, because like,
for kids.
Well, mom's asleep. Which gives the fear of children, like, well, I don't want to fall asleep because, I mean,
absolutely.
So how do we talk about death to a child? What are positive ways of talking about it and negative ways? Like, what don't you say?
Well, what you just said is a good example of what not to say. So there are lots of euphemisms we say, right? They went to sleep, they passed away, they got lost. There's lots of things that you hear people explain to kids.
They're with God now.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of depends on your religious belief, actually. So there are some benefits to that.
Okay.
But the others where it's very vague and like not even true.
Okay, sure.
Those are things we definitely don't want to say to kids. Kids are very literal thinkers. And so when we say they went to sleep, that's what they think. Or they were lost. We lost them. That's the phrase that's often used. We lost them. Well, in their minds, in a literal form, like they got lost. We'll go find them.
Right.
What if I get lost? Does that mean I'm never coming back? Are you not going to go look for me if I get lost?
Right.
So being honest is very important.
So saying grandpa died is okay.
Yes.
Grandma died.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Because it's
you will have to explain more about what that means usually. But yes, to say those words is the best thing to do.
Right.
And then to describe, their body stopped working, some words that are simpler, I guess, that if they don't know what died means. Yeah. But the critical piece too with kids is to answer their questions honestly, but listen to their question. So you don't want to overwhelm them with tons of information that they don't understand or would just be overwhelming for them. So withholding some of those details is not lying, right? It's just like keeping them at the age where they are, right, or answering the question that they have.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like, I like that their body stopped working, but then, but kids
thought about that.
But the age thing, because does that also kind of give them a thought of like, well, what happens? Like, how old will I be when my body stops working? Or, like, because I'm immediately, well, Grandpa Jeff, his body just stopped working. He got to be this age or whatever, or do you just leave the age out of it?
I would leave the age out of it. Yeah. Because I suppose if it's, someone in their 90s or something like that, and they've had a full life, sometimes you can explain that. But no, in general, leaving the age out of it, because you're right. As soon as their parent gets to that age, then they're going to start going through all that anxiety. And so no, it's not necessarily about age, but depending on, what the cause of death was. So if it was cancer, that they got this serious illness, and you do want to explain beyond getting sick, right? Because then the next time they get sick, but
more serious than the flu or a cough, but they had this thing that caused them to die.
Yes. The doctors tried to help them, but it was, their body was too sick. It was more than they could get help with.
Those are great. Their body was too sick,
I like
or
that.
their body just couldn't do that anymore.
Right. Well, when you talk about thinking of things literally, I can think back to when my grandmother died, and she was 94, 95, somewhere along in there. My niece was 4, 5, 6, somewhere along in there. And I remember hearing somebody tell her something about a big sleep. I didn't hear the whole phrase, right? When we were at at the wake.
Uh-huh.
That would have been, the night before the funeral. The morning of the funeral, the family is all having our last, moment with grandma, and like, and big family. My mom had 8 siblings, so lots of people, cousins, husbands, lots of people in the room. And my niece walks up to say goodbye to her and looks at her and goes, "Why is grandma wearing the same dress?"
Oh no.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
which everybody in the room cracked up. They thought it was funny.
Right.
Nobody realized, and I, and at the time I didn't either, what she was probably actually going through.
Wow.
Right.
At that moment.
That's wild.
And if she's sleeping, why doesn't she have her pajamas on? I mean, that's probably
right.
really what she was thinking.
And why isn't, and if it's a big sleep, well, she slept all night, and then most of yesterday she should be waking back up again.
Right. And she would change clothes.
She would change her dress.
Confusing.
There was a movie on recently. It's called Little Miss Sunshine. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but it's really great. This family goes on this kind of like road trip, and the grandpa in the process of this road trip, he dies. And I really loved how the mom explained death to the little girl, because the grandpa was the little girl's like best friend. I mean they were buddies. And I've used this line many times in the funeral home. She goes, "He led an eventful life." And I love that because it's true. I mean, it's like, yes, be sad, but also be happy. They lived a very, and we give folders out, so I get to read the obituaries, and I'll say that to people. I said, I read through this. I said, wow, your mom or dad or uncle, what an eventful life they led. And then that starts then I start getting the stories.
Yes.
So, and I've just always loved that line. It explains it, and you're not sad. You're sad, but not for different reasons.
You are, Right. You're able to also focus on the good memories and things too.
So what are some other things that we can say to walk kids through this? Avoiding the word sleep, and just their body just couldn't do that anymore. That type of thing.
Well, right. And another thing that kids really need to hear is, and depending on, who it was that died, but especially if it's a caregiver or a grandparent that, provided some care for them, things like that, they need to know that they're safe. I mean, that's the biggest part, because of course their mind's going to go to, when is that going to happen to me? When's that going to happen to, dad? So helping them understand the people who are still here, they're going to be taking care of them, and that love them, and they're going to, be with them, and all of that. So that's another really important part. So not only describing the death, but also what happens next. Who's going to take care of me is going to be a big part of it.
That they're safe. That they're safe.
Yes, safety is the biggest thing. Yes. And for younger kids, it's also important to clarify, because younger kids, just in the way that their brain works at their developmental level, they tend to go to themselves. So whether that's, the clouds are moving because I made a big breath, or, something like that. So they also might think, I didn't do my chores, or I was bad yesterday, or, you can imagine some of the things that might go through their head, and that's why this happened. So you definitely, I just think that's important. Why too, to explain the truth about why they died.
So
it's nothing to do with them.
What's that conversation? Just say, this had nothing to do with you. You weren't bad. You weren't this is totally disconnected from you. Like you said, grandpa's body just couldn't do that anymore.
Right. It was nobody's fault. It was nobody's, I guess that depends on the cause of death, honestly, but you know what I mean? For the most part, it's usually not somebody's fault. It's not anybody's fault. Their body just stopped working.
It wore out.
Yeah.
It wore out.
Yep. That's a good way to say it too.
Well, and is it okay to say that it happens to everybody eventually at some point, or anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's okay.
But
every person and every animal, like every plant, like it's part of living.
Okay, sure.
Everything that lives eventually dies.
We go through cycles.
Right. I wouldn't harp on that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wouldn't spend a lot of time with that because that's going to build their anxiety, but certainly in explaining it. Yeah.
But I think
there are also lots of really good.
The assurance that you're young and you've got a lot of time ahead of you. You still have a lot of life and experiences to have before that happens to you.
Yes.
I mean, that's not misleading them.
No, it's definitely not. And you can say that about, I mean, if you're the other parent that's living, let's say, and one of the parents died, that's something you can say about yourself too. Like, I'm healthy. There's, I'm not sick. Everything's fine.
Yep.
I plan to live for a long time. You don't make promises, of course, but that's what the plan is.
I like that.
And that's fine too.
The plan. My plan is to live as long as I possibly can and as healthy as I possibly can. That's my plan.
And I'm going to take care of myself and take care of myself so I can take good care of you. And
Yep. Now let's go make some cookies.
Right. Exactly.
Let's change course. Yeah.
Right. That's actually a good lead into something I wanted to be sure to add about kids, because it's one of the ways that they work grief very differently than adults do. And that kids, like, play is their primary language, right? That's how they communicate. And so kids might cry, when they're first hearing about it, or when people are talking about it, they might cry. And then the next minute they're off playing. That doesn't mean they're done. It doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean they're not still grieving. It's just, that's what kids do to, like, cope with situations. And sometimes they're even playing through the grief in their play. That's just a way they communicate it. But it's also like this amazing thing that kids have the ability to do. And I really wish adults were better at this, but they go play, right? Like, that's a way for them to kind of take a break too. Like, okay, whoa, I'm feeling way overwhelmed. They can't verbalize this necessarily, but they take a break. They go play and do something different. And it's amazing how they do that.
Well, adults go to them do that. Adults go have a drink or they socialize. But I think a point here that while you were saying that, as adults, we have to model for them. And I know when Jeff died, I could see that Nathan, one of my grandsons, was struggling. And I sat down with him and I took his hand and I made sure they saw me cry. I made sure I didn't hold back because I'm modeling for them. I'm upset. Grandpa Jeff died. I'm going to miss him. And it's okay to cry. And Nathan, of all the grandkids, is one of the more emotional ones. And I wanted to give him a nonverbal cue. It's okay.
Sure. And I did the exact opposite when Janice was sick and dying. I didn't cry in front of my boys.
You were stoic. You were stoic.
I was the strong stoic Iowan for my boys.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that was the right thing to do.
Well, I think...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think I did that all right because last year I went for graduation and little Skylar, who is now 7, she came over to me. We're getting ready for graduation ceremony to start. And she looks at me and she goes, "Beepa is sand." I went, yep, Beepa is sand. Well, Jeff was cremated. And that's how they explained cremation to her. And I said, yep. I said, but that was the first thing out of her mouth because she associates me with Grandpa Jeff. And I like to think that I made it a safe place. Yes, let's talk about that. Let's
yes.
I'm always that open to them. Let's talk about it. You have any questions? I had a grandson come at Christmas time and I said, "Have you ever seen cremains?" He goes, "Yes." Because I was ready to open the urn and show him, like they need to know these things. Don't.
I think so.
I think people, they hold back. They're trying to protect their child.
Yes.
But it works the opposite. The more they know, the better it is.
I totally agree. And it's not, Chris, I wouldn't say it's that you did something wrong per se.
I would in a heartbeat. I think he totally blew it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm trying to be empathic.
Of course you do.
Yeah. You're doing really well. Yeah. I'm sucking at it.
And that's why Rob is unqualified.
Absolutely. And unsupervised. But anyway, go on and make your statement. Exactly. I'm sorry.
No, but you are correct. Like, we are modeling for the children and we do want them to know that it's healthy to express those emotions, however it's going to come out. So it's definitely, I think it is important. If we're someone who cries, we don't want to hold that back from our children. It's okay for them to see it. it's definitely okay to talk about it, and so that they know that door is open too when they want to talk about it, that it's okay to do that. Um,
Every
I
time.
do.
Every time.
Uh, yeah, I mean, really, for the most part, I I mean, I suppose there might be times where it's not an okay time, like you're in the middle of, I don't know.
Getting a haircut.
But most of the
Yeah.
time, yes, most of the time it is definitely okay.
Well, no, but we're modeling for our children, our grandchildren. Like my son, I thought it was important that he saw me uh, when we were preparing my remarks because he scripted me. You know, when we were reading through that, he saw me cry. He saw me be emotional. In fact, Chris and I did a segment early on, just the two of us. Part of it was, it's okay to not be okay, and my part was, don't touch me. And I felt it was important for the family to see me at that weakest moment of when Jeff died. You know, they know that I cried. They know that I grieved. They know that he was an important part of my life, and I wasn't going to hide that from anyone. And I thought it was important for my son. You know, because when that happens, if that happens to him, I think in a nonverbal way, I gave him permission to grieve in a way that he needs to grieve. Yeah.
I totally agree. And I just remembered what I was going to say, that because we are modeling for them, though, we do want to make sure we're not, like having explosive rage or those kinds of things. Those are not okay to do in front of our kids about a grief reaction. If we need to do that, that's probably something to save in private or with a good friend or something.
What do you mean? What do you mean by explosive rage? Can you give me an example?
Throwing something across the room, or
yes,
banging the floor, or
yes, exactly,
screaming
aggression.
out. Those are things I did in private.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? That's totally fine. It's just not something we want to model for kids because, I mean, they're going to get in trouble for that. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like,
right?
it's not necessarily a healthy way to express that for children because they don't know the limits of that, and then they're going to get in trouble. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
like,
right. I mean, there might be a patch in the drywall over there where I got mad.
Oh,
put something through the wall.
Oh, okay.
Because I was not dealing with my grief very well.
All right.
But no one was here when that happened.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to say that could be scary if a child observed that, right? That could be scary and lead to different things for them. So yeah, we want to model healthy expression of it.
Right.
So being able to talk about it, being able to cry about it, like those kinds of things are healthy ways for them to see us do that.
Right. Wow. Because when Jeff died, my son looked at me and he goes, you know, Dad, we're going to script you. And he goes, nobody wants to see you cry. Well, he later apologized for that. He said, I thought it was a little tough on you. I said, but you knew your audience. I said, it was good. He did write out, I wanted to talk about Jeff, and he did script me because that's actually what he does as part of his job. And he goes, I'm keeping you at 6 minutes. And I'm really glad he scripted me because I've seen so many people get up at a service and in their head, it's one thing, you know, but it does not come out that way. And so, and was I emotional? Sure. But I didn't break down in front of everyone. I got my message across and people said, how'd you do that? Well, I'd worked through the emotion in the first 6 times that I read through the script,
right?
You know, and it was important. And like I said, he apologized for that, but it's like, no, I'm glad you did, because I've seen so many people, they're in this very crucial moment. They want to eulogize their mother, their father, whatever, and they end up becoming a sobbing mess. So I encourage people, please take notes, make your notes and stick to them. You know, I'm not saying don't have emotion, but control it in this moment. The message gets lost when you're all emotional. And once again, modeling, which is important. And I'd like to think for my, for Jeff's kids, his daughters and their kids, that I was a good role model. Like, this is how you conduct yourself at a memorial service, when you're eulogizing someone. And I'm not,
definitely.
I'm not denying the emotion. That's not it. But it's just like, in this moment, you need to park your emotion just a little bit, get your message out, and then come back to it. So, sure.
And I would say too, to kind of continue with the idea of the modeling and being free to express, your emotion in front of your kids, that there is a time though where therapy might be beneficial for the child, especially if it was a significant um, caregiver. It's somebody very significant in their lives, that because what kids can do too is sometimes be protective of their other parent. And so, or, if it was even a grandparent that was a caregiver, then, both their parents. But so if every time they try to talk about their loved one who died, the parents start crying, that can be a lot for the kid, and they might start not talking to them about it. They might try to protect their parents from feeling sad, and so then they're like, well, I can't talk about that with them. So to have a therapist or somebody that they can go to and talk about, that's neutral, that's not involved with that situation, and they don't have to worry about taking care of that person.
What are some things that people should look for to make sure that their children, so they know what to look for in the child to make sure they get the therapy? Like what are the hallmarks? What should they what should a parent or an adult look for in the child to get them to therapy?
So for younger kids, it usually is more behavioral. They might start being aggressive, or they might, maybe they were a child that used to be pretty compliant, and then all of a sudden they become really defiant and they're just not listening, and, kind of rebelling against their parents and things like that. It tends to become more behavioral for young kids. Um, And I would just say, if that continues, like it's pretty normal for that to be short term. If it just continues and it feels like it's getting out of the parents' control and they don't know how to handle it, I would go to therapy. I would say as kids get a little bit older, 8, 9 and up, it can still be behavioral, but it can also be just like shut down, withdraw, shut down. Or, it's normal for kids to ask questions, of course, but if they're like hyper fixated on it and just keep asking very anxiety driven questions about death or about, what happened or things like that, and it's hard for them to kind of um, shut that off to do school or do other things that they need to do, or just to have some fun, that's where you probably want to get some help too.
Grades?
They just need that other person. Grades, yes.
Grades are changing.
Drop, for sure.
Because what's also coming to mind is substance abuse. Do they start self-medicating, alcohol, drugs, substance? Those are signs as well. Would you see those more in adolescence?
Yes, in general, that whole movement is starting to get younger, but more middle school. But yes, just teenagers in general, I would say, is where you want to start just monitoring for that. Is that happening? Is that, are just risk-taking behaviors in general?
Behaviors are noticeably changing. I get some kind of a mental picture of they're wearing black and they're wearing hoodies and sunglasses. Well, no, but they start more gothish.
Yeah, goth or emo.
That's part of their change. Beyond more than a regular adolescent.
Well, that would be my question too. Then is, how do you know what change is the change that needs to go to therapy, and what change is just them growing up and changing who they are, or growing into who they are, experimenting, finding a new trend, whatever.
Right. So if it's just the style of dress and that kind of thing, I probably wouldn't be as concerned. But if they're completely changing friends, if they're, completely changing their other relationships, with their family, that's probably when it's more of a red flag. This is something to get checked out. And even, it doesn't hurt to go to a mental health professional for a couple times just to get them checked out. Like, do you think they're okay? We're kind of concerned. We're not sure what's going on.
Err on the side of caution.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. Yes. It never hurts to get that kind of a second opinion, right? From a professional about if they think things are okay, or if they do need, some more help. Yeah.
Sure. We get a physical before we do sports. Right. We get a physical as an adult every year. Why not get a checkuip on your head too?
Exactly.
You just made me think. I when I was teaching my classes, I had a friend come, and she is it CASA?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she did that. And she, one night she was manning the hotline or whatever. And this woman called in. She goes, well, I don't know if I need help. And I love this analogy. The fact that she said, if you were if you were having a heart attack, what would we do? She goes, well, I would call 911. And she said, basically, your brain is having a heart attack. And that's why you need to go get help. And I loved that.
Right. You're having a head attack.
You're having a head attack. And and the person, when they put it in terms like that, she went and got help. She wasn't going to get help, but until my friend said, but your brain is going through this.
Sure.
Right.
And I've always just loved that. And so my question now really is for you, Chris. What were you observing in your boys? Because they were in their teens,
right? And to be honest, I didn't notice anything. I mean, other than what I
wasn't
thought,
a red flag.
Other than what I thought was normal grief, and dealing with that kind of stuff. And really thinking back, I'm not really sure. I'm sure there was, and I'm sure getting therapy would probably have been a good thing, just like you say, just to get checked up. Right. But I wasn't picking up on anything. But that could also be a product of my grief, and I wasn't picking up what was going on around me.
For sure.
So do you think having this conversation is going to make you maybe ask them about what their experience was?
Yeah, I probably will.
I mean, they're old enough now.
See what I missed.
Right.
If they even know. They may not even know. They may think they're just fine.
Well, Kelli, that makes a question. Is there such a thing as a delayed, like a child goes through this, but maybe years out, they start thinking through it and start replaying it. Is there such a thing as a delayed reaction?
I would say it's just kind of a normal phase of development, depending on how old the child was when the death happened.
Okay.
As they go through different developmental stages of just normal growth, the brain continues developing and being able to understand more information. Emotionally, they start maturing and understanding more. And so, I wouldn't say it's necessarily delayed. It just changes. As their development changes, they start understanding more and go through a different experience with it, right? So it's actually totally normal to be, and you can imagine, like, if you have let's say a 9 or 10-year-old whose parent died, and then as they go through different phases of life, so they start middle school, they start high school, they have prom, they graduate, they get married, they all these different stages that children go through. Each of those stages is a kind of a punch in the gut of
right.
Like, my parents not here to see me do this. My parents not with me to do this. And so definitely there can be lots of different phases of grief for them.
Is there, and maybe this is a question for both you and Chris, are there ways of preparing, like in Janice's case, she was sick and we knew it and they knew it. Are there ways for parents to prepare their children for this event, this death, is there any way of kind of heading it off at the pass a little bit?
I mean, I think it's just like it's important to tell the truth to kids about death. I think it's important to tell the kids the truth about, if there's a chronic illness and it becomes known that death is the end, death is happening here. This is the path toward death. I think it's important for kids to know that. It's just a tricky balance, right? Because you don't want to build too much anxiety,
right?
But you also want to be honest with them. I mean, it's really, if we know it, it's only fair that they also know it, right? Again, only as much as they can handle as far as their age and things like that. But we definitely don't want to keep that information from them.
Right. Just keep it what they can understand.
Right.
But then there's not a shock either. It's like, mommy is sick, daddy is sick. And we don't know what the future is going to be, but I know at some point my energy is going to be different and this could happen and I could die. and I don't want it to come as a surprise to you, but know that we'll work through it together. And I'm so happy that you're with me, and you will be by my side, and that we'll get through this
together.
Yep. And I love you, and know that if something happens to me, I love you. That's never going to change. It's never going to go away. I'm always going to be with you because you're my child.
Right.
Well, and ideally, the parent who's dying can have those conversations as well, right?
Right.
They can have those same conversations, and the child can have a chance to make a card, draw a picture, depending on how old they are, but an older child, teenager, they can have more meaningful conversations with that parent too.
Right.
Just like adults, we wish that we could be able to tell that person that we love them and important things that about them. So you want your kids to be able to share those things too.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean they're not going to grieve, right? Obviously.
Right.
But it's healthy for them to
Right,
have
but
those.
Right. And we had those conversations. I mean, thankfully Janice was smarter than I, and having an elementary, middle school education degree, had a better understanding. So she had those conversations, and the boys were, mid to upper teens when she did pass. So
but that's what I'm getting at.
And especially when she decided to stop treatment, we really sat down and had a conversation with her about that.
It's going to get serious.
And in fact, I watched a conversation happen because I didn't know what to say, and she was really good at it. But I mean, at least I was there.
But you understand, like the parent comforting the child, even though the parent's going to die, and they know it, but it comforts them to know, okay, I'm going to go through this process, and this is what I think it's going to be, but we don't know. But just know that I love you, and I know you're with me, and I know you're supporting me to walk through this. And when I'm not here, know that I love you, and that's never going to change.
Right.
That support. So.
And I think that's a good time. Chris had mentioned earlier about there with God or something like that. And I said, it actually can be beneficial if the family does have religious beliefs. That would be a good time too. If families have different, it doesn't have to be religious either. I mean, just different kind of spiritual or just different belief systems about what happens after death.
Yes.
That's a good time to be able to talk through that too. If you have time before they die to actually kind of describe that and what, we believe this. And that can be comforting too, that they know what happens,
right.
Whatever it is that the family believes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So to take a different turn, a question I have is, have you ever had to give therapy to a child that had a terminal illness?
Oh, yes.
And did not have a good prognosis?
Yes. So, well, I've had both outcomes, I guess. So
okay.
I've worked with some children with cancer. Fortunately, the ones that I was doing ongoing therapy with went into remission and were able to return to health. So I'm blessed with that, I would say. But that process is so challenging. I have had one child die, and I mean, that's it. It's also, it was just really interesting though with this kid. It was not cancer; it was other health issues. But I mean, he really seemed at peace. So it was still very challenging, of course, and I mean, just way too early, obviously, for someone to die. But
they understood. You walked them through it, and they understood that they understood like the process. That they had information, which helped them understand it.
Exactly.
And I think that's where I was going with it. Like if you're telling a child, we underestimate their ability to understand. It's like, no, I don't know what's going to cause this. I don't know the outcome. The doctors don't know. I don't know. But you know what? We're going to do this together. And everything will be okay.
And what you're saying right now is so important. The I don't knows, because that's really important for people to understand too, that adults do not have all the answers. There are things that we don't know, and that is okay too. to say that this is just something we don't know, but we're going to go through it together. Yeah.
Jeff, that was the biggest thing. Like, did they give Jeff a timeline? No. Every doctor, every care person said, we don't know. And that was right. We don't know. And that got us through. I mean, we're just going to live until we don't. So,
right.
Yep. You got to live while you can.
Right.
So to speak.
Got a couple minutes left. And while Chris thinks of his question, my question is we're coming to the end of this. What do you want to leave people with? What are the thoughts? What's the best advice? What can we leave people with today?
Yeah, I would say the things that come to mind are consider the developmental level of the child. So only give them as much as they're asking. Don't overwhelm them, but be honest. Don't use the phrases that we think are going to soften it for them. They really need to know the truth and in the language that they use. The other thing, when I was talking about sharing feelings, so being able to have children draw or play or look at pictures, share memories, those kinds of things that are more like the children's language. That's how they communicate. So doing it on their level in that way. I think the other thing, which I haven't talked about, that's so important for children is to maintain routines. So children thrive on routines. And so everything else in their life might be chaos for a while. And there's so much emotion that they're not used to and things like that. So the more you can keep their regular routines, go to bed at the same time, eat your meals at the same time, eat together, or however your regular, your regular schedule is, the better they're going to be able to just cope with everything else that's going on in their life.
That works for adults too.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
You said like, I counted on that. And I depended on it.
And my puppies.
Yes.
Keep their routine too.
Sure.
Yes. But no, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about safety earlier, that feeling of safety and routines for children and adults. You're right.
Yeah.
It just provides such a sense of security that like, okay, I know what to expect from this. I know what's coming next in this, even though I don't understand or I'm overwhelmed by the other things. I know this is going to happen.
Sure. Yeah. Disruption causes unknown, and unknown is fear.
Right. We're watching someone die, and that's unpredictable. So we counterbalance that with predictability. Getting up at 7 o'clock. You go to the bathroom. You put your clothes on. You go to school. That's great. That's great.
Right. I think too there are exceptions though, obviously. So you don't want to be completely rigid. Like there definitely need to be exceptions.
Sure.
And I have an example of that I messed up on.
Okay.
So when my children are adults now, but when they were younger, my father died. And I found out early in the morning before they were awake and, had already made some plans with mom and my siblings that I was going to travel to go to them and we were going to support each other and make some plans and things like that. So when my kids woke up, I told them and, we had some time to cry together and all of that. And then I was like, okay, so we're going to get ready for school. I'm thinking routine, right? Let's get ready for school. And my middle child, who is definitely my spirited child, very direct and, gonna say it like it is. And I'm so grateful for her in general. But at this moment, she said, Mom, we can't go to school. Our grandpa just died. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so right. What am I thinking?
That's great.
So, there are exceptions there too.
Sure.
Well, I like that about the flexibility. That is so important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Read the room.
Right.
Basically.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Listen to your kids. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and it might not be as vocal as my daughter was, but yeah, pay attention to what they're saying in other ways too.
Great.
Perfect. Well, Kelli, we are out of time.
Okay.
So it went fast.
It did.
Yeah. No, this is a great conversation.
Gee, Chris, do you think we should have her on again?
So, Rod always wants to invite everybody back because he's right. We wind up scratching the surface of what we could really be talking about.
There's so much more.
There is. So we may have you back on again.
I would love to. I enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, this was fabulous. Thank you very much. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you,
Kelli. Thank you.
Rod, what a delight. Kelli was awesome and so knowledgeable and comfortable talking about it.
So much information that I'm going to have to listen to that one a couple of times because there was so much, much there. But what was your takeaway?
My big takeaway was death is death. There's not degrees to kids. You know, their dead pet turtle is just as dead as dad or grandfather or anybody else. They don't understand death to that degree yet.
There is no degree.
Right.
It's just death.
Right. And you kind of have to treat them that way. You can't expect them to be like, you know, you got to understand when they're completely distraught over their dead turtle and the same kind of distraught over their dad.
Right. There's no distinction.
Yeah.
No, I think also it's going to make me think about changing my verbiage with people.
Yes.
They didn't pass away or, you know, or, sorry for your loss. I mean, I don't know what the other words are, but they did die. I'm sorry that your friend died.
Well, that's what they've taught us. And, you know, it's what they just in EMS and the fire service too. When you're on scene and they're dead, you tell the family member they died.
Right.
You don't beat around the bush. You don't try to soften it. You tell them the truth.
Wow. You just made me think about it when my son's grandfather died. We had to, it was in Ames and on and on. But anyway, we took him into the room where he was. The intubation tube is still there. And he was 6 years old at the time. He said, "Is Grandpa dead?" And we went, "Yes." It was that simple. "Is Grandpa dead?" Yes, Grandpa died.
Yeah. And the kids will just be like, "Okay, he's dead."
And he got it. Yeah.
So I think that was great. Just trying to help kids figure out death and grieving is tough.
But I think I think we're going to have Kelli back, and I think she wants to walk us through the process of funerals and that type of thing. Because I remember Barry was actually miffed at us because we didn't take him out of school to go help pick out caskets for Grandpa.
Sure.
Yeah, he was like, I would. He wanted to be part of the process.
Yeah.
And
why wouldn't he?
I think we need to involve children at whatever level is safe for them.
Yes.
You know, to
based on their age and their development
and fill them in, walk them through it because they're not little. It's their funeral too.
Right.
So walk them through it.
Absolutely.
So,
what a great show
that was.
We got another great one next week, so don't miss it. And get over to Forward Wellness for Caregivers.com. Send us a message at chris@forwardwellnessforcaregivers.com. Let us know what you're thinking and what you're feeling.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week.
Hey, Chris, I think we had another good show tonight. I think we nailed it. I think we got knocked it right out of the park.
Yeah, Rod, this is our circus and we are our monkeys.
This is so true. I'm really looking forward to the next show. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I am too, and I thought you were figuring that out, so I guess maybe I'll help you with that.
Let's talk about that. Absolutely. But I'm really looking forward to whatever we talk about. It will be hopefully it'll be helpful. And
it'll be fun.
It will be fun. So yes,
as
fun as grief can be.
Exactly. So do not miss next week.
No.